Wonder how long that fella's been in there. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this episode we are going to be finishing the demo of the boys' room. It took longer than I expected, and the reason was the volume of lath. There was a ridiculous amount of lath to take off. I had two things going against me. Number one was the sheer number of that lath that needed to come off. The other thing I had going against me was that my son, my youngest, takes naps still, and he happens to be right across the hallway from the room, which made it tricky because I had to find a way to do things quietly. Couldn't use power tools. But now that I reflect on it, when I have to do this again, because we are going to do this for other rooms, what would be a faster way to get lath down? I don't know if there's a faster way. I'm sure there's a better way out there, but I don't know of it yet. So it was super messy. That was another thing. Super messy. And I had to wear a respirator the whole time. Had to make sure it was sealed off the whole time. And hope you enjoy the video. Something I wanted to point out here that I thought was really cool. These little tack nails are the old square cut nails, and there are hundreds of these. They are I think there's one right there. They're the nails that hold up the lath. I'm going to keep all these because they're cool. Okay, so I've been puzzling over this for a little while. You can see there's some blown in cellulose insulation here and right here. And you can tell there's some evidence of some right there. Probably can't really see it there. But there's nothing there in between those studs, and so on and so forth. I've been like, what in the world? Why is that the case? You know? And I think I know why. So, don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a big hole right here. And another big hole right in there. And a big hole up there. And so my theory is that when somebody blew in insulation, you know, in the attic, that was blown in insulation coming in, and probably down here this way as well. And so as a result, some of that insulation fell in to this cavity, and so that's why there's just a little bit. There's not a whole lot. Wonder how long that fella's been in there. Whoa. Okay. You guys see that? Wasp nest. Come on now. Piece of corn. Piece of corn, anybody? Oh. It's starting to get a little crowded in here, so I think I need to clean. Now, I think probably the best way to do this is out the window instead of carrying this all through the house. The thing I'm kind of worried about... Ugh. Oops. Which way is it? Is I don't want to hit the house or the car. So I'm going to try and aim over here in this snowbank. And I think what I'm going to do first is the wood, because that's easiest to aim with. And then I have a plan for all the bags. Now I've filled up these bags just full enough where it's a little difficult to move, but not too full that it's impossible to move, because that plaster is real heavy. So hopefully nothing goes bad. Here we go. And that's as far as we got before I lost all of our footage for the rest of this video and all previous footage that exists for this channel. So I have all of that stuff on an external hard drive, and that hard drive got bumped a little bit, slightly, and it's maybe been bumped more than that probably, with a house full of 4 boys and me. We will have to try and get that data recovered, hopefully, at some point, and it's going to be expensive, I think. But in the meanwhile, we will soldier on. Okay, so what I'm going to go through right now is what we discovered when we uncovered all of these walls. Number one was there is clear mouse activity. The 2x4s on this wall in particular show clear signs of chewing and other like nesting kind of things, as well as above the door and some in the exterior walls as well. Definitely obviously found that corpse in the wall, of course. And then finally, and thankfully, we found a frayed, chewed on electrical cord. So really happy we found that. Could have been a disaster, or at least potentially a disaster, with exposed wiring and that sort of thing. So the plan of attack will be to block the passages that the mice were using, or at least they used to use, and then also we'll repair that wire, and then hopefully we will not have mouse activity up here. Second thing we discovered, obviously, was on the exterior walls. We have no insulation whatsoever, and that explains a lot, explains why this was chilly in here. I also talked about this in the last video, so if you want to check that out, you can certainly do so. But priority will be obviously to get this place insulated and hopefully warmed up. Third discovery was that our house was constructed with the balloon framing style. So this does fit the time frame of this house. This house was built in 1890. Balloon framing was done relatively between 1830s and 1930s, kind of a 100-year period. This is going to be a very brief and very general overview of kind of construction techniques. we started out timber framing. That was the first kind of form of construction here in America. We brought that over from Europe. When the Industrial Revolution hit, 2x4 stick framing was cheap, it was easy, and it was fast. In just a moment we'll talk about Chicago and how that sort of came into play there, but that replaced timber framing as a main form of construction. In order to best describe balloon framing, I thought it'd be easiest to compare it to modern framing. Modern framing uses platforms to sort of separate each level, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that it slows down fire, like it compartmentalizes fire. There's a reason that has come into play in modern framing as opposed to the old style balloon framing, which we will get to in a second. So with platforms, if you can imagine with me, you have your foundation, obviously, and then you have floor joists that are placed on top, and then on top of that is a sheeting material, and that creates the platform, okay? And then on top of that platform are 2x4 stud walls that are put up, and then again, if you have another floor, you put in floor joists and you put sheeting material on top, and then that is your next platform, and then so on and so forth. Again, the idea behind that being is that if a fire starts in the bottom, it is slower to reach the second or next floor above it. Gives you longer time to get out of the house and call the fire department. So now that we kind of have an understanding of that, compare that to balloon framing. Balloon framing, as I understand it and as I've researched this, in the early days of America, there's a lot of old growth trees that were harvested, and these old growth trees were pretty big. So you could get 2x4 pieces that were 20, 30 feet, right? Balloon framing was still 2x4 framing, but that 2x4 spanned the entire vertical length of the house. So from top to bottom. Obviously, not every 2x4 was 30 feet long, so sometimes they would sister some boards together, and you can actually see that on one of our exterior walls here in this room. Some boards look like this. And then essentially, they would tie in to the 2x4 framing the floor joists, but there was no barrier that would prevent, right, anything between levels, right? So you would have a 2x4 cavity that would actually go from the bottom all the way to the top with no interference at all whatsoever, because they also did not do insulation, at least not in the time frame that I'm talking about, the 1890s, 1830s, that sort of era. And so that's balloon framing. There's a great podcast called American Storytellers. They profile the Great Chicago Fire. It's really cool. They do a good job of sort of setting the context. They actually don't talk about balloon framing a ton. Actually, they don't mention even the word balloon framing, but the building practices of the day were not highly regulated, and so the common construction method back then was balloon framing. And essentially, among all of the factors that contributed to the Great Chicago Fire, one of the factors was balloon framing. The fire, the cavities between the 2x4s and no platform blocking, right, in between each floor, sort of created almost like I wouldn't call it an accelerant, but there was no resistance to the fire, right? And already these houses are super dry, and so that fire just flew up that 2x4 cavity. Nothing's blocking it, nothing's stopping it, no insulation, no blocking, and it just accelerated the burning of those buildings. What's interesting about this is that our house is framed near that era. 20 years, removed from the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, this house was built using balloon framing. And so that was a really interesting discovery. Makes Katie nervous, and to be honest, I am a little nervous about it too, because we obviously don't want the same situation happening to us in case of a fire. So one of the things that we will be doing is putting in fire blocking in this space. And as far as I understand it, fire blocking is essentially just creating that barrier so that the fire cannot continue to reach upward. And so on the exterior walls is where the balloon framing exists, and so we will be putting in blocking. That'll be one of the jobs that we do as well. Another discovery that we had was just sort of the general state of the electrical boxes. They were put in post plaster and lath. I will be replacing a lot of those boxes with new outlet boxes, mounting them to the stud, and then we'll move into drywall, which will be exciting. I almost forgot to mention this. The fireplace is uncovered, and again, I had all that footage ready to go, but it got lost. So there it is. Maybe I'll show some better shots of it on the video, but that one took forever. That was very tedious, very time consuming, but I'm glad we did it. We are not sure still what we want to do with this or how we want to make it look cool. I think personally it looks cool as it is, but Katie she might be thinking about wanting to paint it, but whatever, you know, I don't care. It's not like I'm married to my idea, like I am married to my wife. Love you. So, thank you very much for watching. We really do appreciate every view is a huge support to this channel, so we really appreciate it. If you feel like we've earned it, click that like button and hit the notification bell if you want to see some more videos or get notified of them. And again, thank you, and we'll see you on the next video.